Okay, so the verses are coming from Matthew chapter 17, verses 14 through 20. And when they came to the crowd, a man came up to him and kneeling before him said, "Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic, and he suffers terribly. For often he falls into the fire and often into the water. And I brought him to your disciples, and they could not heal him." And Jesus answered, "O faithless and twisted generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him here to me." And Jesus rebuked the demon and healed him instantly. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, "Why could we not cast it out?" He said to them, "Because of your little faith. For truly I say to you, if you have faith like a grain of mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will be moved. And nothing will be impossible for you." So this verse is talking about the faith that the disciples did not have. Because, it's clear. They did not have the faith that, as Jesus explains, of a mustard seed. Barely visible, that they did not have. So, and he's not talking specifically about how small it is. He's not talking about size or intensity. He's talking about their faith wasn't reliant on God. It wasn't reliant on him. They were trying to lean on their own understanding, which has to do with Proverbs, which it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding, for everything comes from Jesus himself," or from God. And so I think that's really important, especially for today's generation, is that you cannot trust in God by yourself. You need God for these great things. And so even though the mustard seed is small, that's literally Jesus's point, because even the smallest things can lead to the greatest things. So, which is really confusing, but it leads to the greatest things because Jesus has all the power. And that's why it sounds so crazy, is because Jesus has all the power. And of course we don't understand that, and that's okay, but we don't understand that he has all the power and he can do anything that we cannot. He can do anything even if we can. It doesn't matter the situation. He is the one who has all control. He is the one who has all the power. And so I think that's really important, is that we should trust in the Lord with all our heart, and not with what we have in what we think is right. And so, because we don't want to worship fake things. We don't want to worship ourselves. We don't want to worship money. We don't want to worship anything that doesn't have to do with him, because he is the one true God that we should worship. And so I think he used this as a learning opportunity for the disciples, and especially because they didn't have the faith. And I know he sounds harsh when he tells them faithless and twisted generation. How long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear you? But he's so upset that people are lacking the faith in him, that it's making him upset. Another thing is, in this story, but in Mark, the dad says, he says, "If you can heal my son, please do," basically. But he says, "If you can," and then Jesus is just like, he's upset, and he says basically the same thing. "How long am I to bear you?" Because it just makes him so upset that people are lacking so much faith in him. And so last thing I'll say is that's really important, I think, because we cannot go anywhere. We can start so close to the end, but we're not going anywhere without Jesus. We're not going anywhere without Jesus. And I think that's really important, and we should honor that, is that you need to understand that you cannot lean on your own understanding, and that you do not control your faith. You need faith that comes from God. And you can either take that or leave it, and I think that the disciples clearly showed that they did not take that. So I think that's really important, and that's the last thing I'll say. But this, I think I already said, but this is an ESV.
All right, what's up, guys? Thank you so much, Aubrey, for giving us that beautiful verse breakdown. Now it's time to talk about Pokemon. I got the gamer muffs on again because today is going to get heated because I'm talking about fire types. So I actually took notes this time, so it's going to be more structured than last time. I'm not just going to be rambling for 5 minutes. And I would say there are 3 specific mons that I want to talk about that I think really embody what it means to be a fire type, and then I'm just going to talk about the type as a whole. So the first fire type that I'm going to talk about, take a wild guess, it is Incineroar. Incineroar is possibly the greatest VGC Pokemon ever designed. I am going to be talking about this in the context of Scarlet and Violet VGC. I'm not going to talk about a specific regulation. I'm also not going to bring up stats from each specific regulation. I like these as more kind of off the cuff, just me giving my thoughts on a type design or maybe on a Pokemon design. So start with Incineroar. It's one of the greatest support Pokemon of all time. People already know this. Fire and Dark type is a pretty, actually not great defensive typing, but you're going to see we have 2 Fire Dark types on this list, so it is a weirdly common one. It has one of the greatest support pools of all time with Fake Out, Party Shot. It gets Stab on knockoff, and Will-O-Wisp is a more niche pick, but still it is cripples physical attackers. It's ranked S+ for the current VGC formats from Smogon's VGC viability, and that's kind of just where it always is. It's very annoying. I don't like it. Next I want to talk about Chi-Yu, one of the Treasures of Ruin, another Fire Dark type. Specs plus a ridiculous special attack stat and Heat Wave. The good news is I don't think we're going to see Chi-Yu in Pokemon Champions. The bad news is this is Mega Charizard Y just without the sun. I spent too much time talking about Incineroar. Arcanine is actually one that I feel very, very mild about. It is a supporting offensive mon. Morning Sun plus a pretty above average HP stat. In addition, Will-O-Wisp, Flare Blitz, and I believe it gets access to Helping Hand. Make it a great mon. I like its design too. I think it's cool. And also, like, its Hisuian variant is also usable in a different niche. I think that's a great way of, like, keeping the stats similar, only tweaking ability, and I think move pool. I think the move pool is a little different. And all of a sudden, just giving it an entirely different purpose. But yeah, I just wanted to come on here, give my thoughts about the fire type. Once again, thank you, Aubrey, for giving an amazing Bible study. Yeah, cool. See ya.